Hi, my name is Desiree Crone. I have had a hard life growing up, and my testimony is very messy. I was the youngest, and I was the only girl in the home. And I grew up with a father who is Catholic, diehard Catholic, and a mother who is Pentecostal. So when it came to religion, it was very confusing within my household, but I always did believe in God. I always believed that there was a God. I believed that Jesus died on the cross for me. I believed all of that with my heart. But fortunately, my parents have gone through a lot of stuff in their life as well. And because of that, they lack some of the necessary tools that it took to be a good parent. Before I could remember, my brother, one of my older brothers, molested me for years. And that was really hard. When I told my mom about it and I came out about it, she acted as if that's something that we just don't talk about. You kind of push it under the rug. It was a very taboo subject, even though I was really hurting about it. So it was really confusing to me as a kid because I thought if something bad happened, you tell their parents and they're supposed to protect you. And unfortunately, my mind just couldn't do that for me. And then growing up, that caused a lot of anger within inside of me, and so I rebelled a lot. I started doing self-harm. I tried to commit suicide a few times, and even embarrassed by that because those attempts didn't work, and I just felt like really lonely and low. By the time I was 15, my parents got a divorce, and my dad was out of the home, and so I started drinking a lot at that age. And one day, while I was sleeping on the couch, one of my uncles, my mom's brother, he raped me. And I told my mom the very next morning what happened. And I told my grandma, and we actually sat there on the porch with him across from me with his wife and my grandma and my mom. And very embarrassing, but I told my story and I told him what happened to me. And I remember very clearly my grandmother looked at me and she didn't say she didn't believe me. She didn't say that she was sorry that it happened. She just said, we're not going to call the cops because he's family and he has kids. And as family, we take care of family. And I took it in that moment that I was just going to be unnoticed my whole life. No matter what pain I went through, no matter me being vocal and actually speaking up, because I know a lot of people don't really tell that kind of a thing because it's very shocking and it's embarrassing and it's hard to express, but I was very vocal thinking that I was going to a place to get help. And so my family rejected me, and at school they rejected me because, again, like I said, because of everything that happened to me, I had a lot of anger and I would get in fights and my temper would just be very out of control. And that spilled over into my teen years when I wanted to go to church, and I was really looking forward like this brand new start, the Savior that everybody was talking about, like that love. And instead at that church I found rejection. They didn't like that I had scars all up and down my arm because I was hurting. And instead of truly seeing me, they only saw my bad behavior, which again just confirmed the fact that I was unnoticed. So I just really thought that no one in this world would notice me, that I'm just doomed to this life of pain and neglect, and I just kind of accepted that. And it was when I had my third child, by the time I was 21 years old, is when I was really like, Lord, I really have to do something with my life. And I didn't give my heart to the Lord at the church. Instead, I was on my bed and I was crying and I was yelling out to a God who I didn't even know would hear me, and I just said, I want to change. I want to be different for my children. I don't want them to be abused. I want to be that protector. I just don't know how. And I needed that step and that guidance. And that night, I felt from the Lord just so much peace. And I felt like my life was going to turn around. And that's when I met my husband, and he adopted all three of my children. And now I walk today as if I am a child of God and that I am noticed, because through it all, through all of my mess and all of my heartbreak and all of that rejection that I was feeling that I thought was my life, I found that there is a God out there, and he really does notice me, and it's not his fault for the bad things that I've gone through. People have free will, and what they do with their free will is their choice. And what I decide to do in my life is also my choice. And I could either have let what they did to me affect me negatively and my children, or I could turn around and be positive. But I knew I couldn't do that on my own. I knew that I needed an outside source. And I thank God every day that I heard him call my name and I made that choice to follow him. And that's where this poem that I'm going to be reading comes from. I have forgiven my family, so it's not a poem that is coming out of like hate or grudge or anything like that. It is just what I was feeling, and it's something that I felt like I had to share with other people, because growing up, I've noticed that a lot of other people have been sexually abused, and it has been by family members and stuff, and I know how dark that place could be, and I just wanted people who feel like they're hopeless and that their life isn't even worth living, and that they feel just unnoticed and pushed aside and stepped aside, that that's not true, that there's really a God out there that notices you and he loves you.